Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're dialing in from. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a viewer, a subscriber. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share if you find this content helpful. Today, you will learn about the 10th Commandment as presented in the Book of the Law. This Book of the Law was given, or these commandments were given by the voice of the Most High on Mount Sinai. They were given to Moses and to all of Israel or Isolele. Even though Moses and the elders were the ones who went into the mountain and only Moses received the tablets of the law, all of Isolele had the voice of the Most High when he gave these commandments to them. Secondly, the commandments were written on 2 tablets of stone by the finger of the Most High. But Moses broke these tables or these tablets, and after that he prepared another set of 2 other tablets, and the Most High wrote again the same words of these commandments on those second set of tablets. And those tablets were placed in the Ark of the Covenant, and that was kept within the tabernacle, and the tabernacle was in the temple until the Babylonish captivity. So that's a little bit of background on when these commandments were issued and by who. Now let's take a look at this 10th commandment. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's inheritance. Let's listen to the entire commandment.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's inheritance. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, nor his bondman, nor his bondwoman, nor his manservant, nor his womanservant, nor his horse, nor his carriage, nor the instruments of his labor, nor the produce of his land, nor the things that he has made, nor the treasures that he has in store, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Thy desire shall not be upon them, to take them by stealth, nor by fraud, nor by cunning, nor by violence. Neither shalt thou covet that which belongeth to the stranger that dwelleth within thy gates. But thou shalt improve thine own, and thy desire shall be into it. Lest thou be corrupt, and the hand of thy neighbors be against thee, and the cry of the poor ascend to God against thee.
So that is the 10th commandment, 138 words as it appears in the Book of the Law. So what is this commandment about?
Thou shalt not covet.
Let's take a look at what this commandment is really about. Thou shalt not covet. I think it's about those 3 things. It's about you not coveting. And we see here 15 times the word you, or a word that refers to you as an individual of Isolele, or you as a nation, or you as a community, or you as a tribe of Isolele. The Most High is referring again to us as individuals, just like he was referring to our ancestors. He was not referring to Egyptians. He was not referring to the children of Esau. He was referring to the children of Jacob or Israel. Once they had come out of Egypt, he was talking to them individually. They had his voice. He came down the mountain to talk to them so that they get it and they remember it. And now he emphasizes you as individuals, you as a nation, you as tribes shall not covet. Second thing that he emphasizes in yellow is that you shall not do this. This is mandatory. The word shall is mandatory, indicates that something is mandatory. You will do it or you will not do it. It is not a suggestion. It is not a democracy where we're going to debate this. He's telling them this is a commandment. It's set in stone. Keep it. And this is mentioned 20 times. If it wasn't important, he wouldn't repeat it. The Most High wouldn't repeat it 20 times. So that's the second thing that he emphasizes. This is mandatory. You've got to do it. The third thing is this word covet. What does this word mean? To covet is to desire or to be inclined towards something, to wait longingly, to wish, to sigh, to want, to be greedy. According to the English dictionary, it is to wish for earnestly, but I like the second description. It's to desire what belongs to another inordinately or culpably. So it's you're wishing, you're desiring for something that is not yours. That is to covet. That is what the Most High is telling us not to do. Do not covet, do not desire, do not wish for what is not yours. So how many times does the Most High tell us about not coveting or things not to covet? 19 times. I mean, is it a coincidence that, 20 times we've been told not to do it? 15 times it's us being addressed, 20 times don't do it, and then 19 times these are the things we should not covet. Your neighbor's inheritance, your neighbor's house, your neighbor's bondman, your neighbor's bondwoman, your neighbor's manservant, your neighbor's woman servant, your neighbor's horse, your neighbor's carriage, your neighbor's tools or instruments, or the produce of his land, or the things that he has made, whatever somebody else has made, or the treasures that he has in his store, his bank account, or whatever it is that he has, or anything that is your neighbor's. Now, remember, these are the Israelites being told this. So they're being told, you have neighbors who are your brothers and sisters, your cousins from the other 12 tribes or 11 tribes. Do not covet any of these things that are theirs. And then they're told your desire, which is part of coveting, that desire for other people's things, your desire shall not be upon those things that are of your neighbor, to try and to take them by stealth or fraud or cunning or violence, neither shall you covet that which belongs to now the stranger. Second person here, the stranger. Okay? Don't have the desire. And that is the stranger that dwells within our boundaries, within our compounds, our gates. But you shall instead improve your own stuff, and your desire shall be on your stuff unto it, lest you be corrupt, and the hand of your neighbors be against you, and the cry of the poor ascend to the Most High against you. What is this word here, stealth? You shall not be upon them to take them by stealth. So this is what this word stealth means. It's a cautious, an obtrusive, and secretive way of moving or proceeding intended to avoid detection. Okay, so I'm going to look here. I think I need to mute somebody. Okay, keep going. So you're trying to operate in stealth mode where you cannot be detected. And you're doing this so that you can acquire the property or the things of your neighbor. That's the meaning of stealth as a noun. So like we have examples of a stealth bomber, a stealth plane or technology, something that would go undetected. But the second thing here is second meaning of the word stealth as an adjective. It shows you're intending not to attract attention. So you're trying to do this without being detected. You don't want to be seen. You don't want to be identified. So why are you doing it in hiding? That's the question to ask yourself. The second word that is used in that commandment that I think we should look at is the word corrupt. It says here, lest you be corrupt. If you acquire these things and you steal these things from the stranger, it says, You should instead be improving your own things, and your desire should be on your own things, lest you be corrupt. So what does this word corrupt mean? To change from good to bad in morals, manners, or actions. So you are in one condition, now you're changing to another condition, especially in your morals. You're going from good morals to bad morals, good manners to bad manners, good actions to bad actions. So there's an aspect of degrading with unsound principles or moral values. That's the first part, first meaning of being corrupt. Of course, to rot or to spoil is also the same thing. You're changing from something that is good to bad. To alter from the original or correct form or version. So think about this. These guys are on Mount Sinai. They have come from Egypt and they've been slaves there. They're about to have a new nation that they will live under when they get to the promised land. But as they're in their journey, they're being told, you are in your original state. You're good. You have good morals. Now, as you go into this promised land, don't be corrupted. Do not introduce bad morals into yourselves. So the adjective of corrupt means to be morally degenerate and perverted. Can also call it to be depraved. Adulterated or debased by change from an original or correct condition. The Most High is telling them, you guys are in your original state. You're in a correct condition now. Do not covet stuff that is not, stuff from your neighbor or the strangers. Otherwise, your original state will get, depraved or damaged. So let's take a look at what the scriptures say, the scriptures in the Bible. So in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 5, verse 21 is where it talks about coveting. And it reads, neither shall you desire thy neighbor's wife, neither shall you covet thy neighbor's house, his field or his manservant or his maidservant, his ox or his ass or anything that is thy neighbor's. Now, over here on the right, we have the 10th commandment according to the book of the law. And I have highlighted in green the words that appear in Deuteronomy. Notice that in Deuteronomy, they talk about desiring or coveting your neighbor's wife. The book of the law does not talk about your neighbor's wife. It talks about coveting. It starts out by saying you shall not covet your neighbor's inheritance. Okay? The first time it talks about the neighbor, it talks about inheritance. Then it talks about the neighbor's house. It never talks about the neighbor's wife. The neighbor's wife would be adultery. This is about desiring or coveting your neighbor's things or people, your house, your bondman, your bondwoman. Then it talks about their servant, which they also talk about here, their manservant or maidservant. When it comes to talking about their animals, the book of the law talks about a horse, but the scriptures in Deuteronomy, verse 21 here says an ox. Now, at least we see there's an animal mentioned there. Maybe they lost this in translation, but even still, it's one thing if you tell me an ox versus a horse, because if the book of the law says a horse, that also communicates to me that they had horses as a means of transport, not just an ox here. Then why does the book of the law mention a carriage or some kind of vehicle that is used, probably with a horse, whereas Deuteronomy doesn't talk of any vehicle. It just talks about an ass, or what we call a donkey today. Why is there that big difference? Was it just lost in translation? Or is it a deliberate attempt to conceal information? Now, here, the last part that I highlighted talks about do not desire anything that is your neighbor's. They have that here in the book of the law. But what happened to everything that is not highlighted here in the book of the law? It is not in the book of Deuteronomy. Now, we understood as we were discussing this that the book of the Deuteronomy was Moses repeating to the children of Israel, or Isolele, just before they entered the promised land. So this was after 40 years. Moses is just giving them a repetition. It was probably he was giving them a verbal repetition of the written book of the law, because when the Most High spoke, Moses wrote this and kept this, like we saw in the Ark of the Covenant, which was then kept in the temple, and so on. So whoever came and wrote the book of Deuteronomy and put it in the canon of the Bible, we don't know. We don't know whether they gave us a copy of exactly what Moses said at the time they were entering the promised land. They were about to enter the promised land. Maybe this is what Moses dictated, a shortened version. Or maybe it's not, and they chose to give us a summarized version, because we know for sure it's different. You know, these 4 lines cannot equate to all these lines in the book of the law. What about in Exodus? What happened in Exodus? Exodus chapter 20, verse 17, they talk about coveting. Here they say, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. Okay, I think that's exactly what the second line in Deuteronomy said. First line said, don't covet your neighbor's wife. Now, in Exodus, it says, don't covet your neighbor's house. Then they switch and they go to talk about the wife. So they're talking about the wife, then the house. Over here, like we've discussed, it only talks about coveting your neighbor's house. It doesn't mention, again, the wife. Then they repeat about the manservant, maidservant, ox or donkey or anything. We see at least it's consistent. Exodus is consistent with Deuteronomy because they talk about the ox, the donkey or the ass, and anything that is your neighbor's. But what about everything else that was explained here? Notice the big difference that in the Bible, or in the scriptures in the Bible, in Deuteronomy and Exodus, they only talk about your neighbor and the things that belong to your neighbor. But in the book of the law, they talk about your neighbor and your servant. The stranger and the stranger. So why is it that they did not talk about the stranger in Deuteronomy and Exodus? I have some thoughts about that. Maybe it's because whoever put together the Bible as we know it didn't want us, those people of the promise, the children of the promise, to question them, to ask them, you are a stranger in my land. Why did you come here from your land? Why are you coveting my minerals? Why are you coveting my property? Why are you coveting my men, my horses, my animals? Why are you violating this 10th commandment? That is one of the ideas I have about this and why it is not listed in whole as a commandment, the 10th commandment. Okay, let's listen to it one more time.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's inheritance. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, nor his bondman, nor his bondwoman, nor his manservant, nor his womanservant, nor his horse, nor his carriage, nor the instruments of his labor, nor the produce of his land, nor the things that he has made, nor the treasures that he has in store, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Thy desire shall not be upon them, to take them by stealth, nor by fraud, nor by cunning, nor by violence. Neither shalt thou covet that which belongeth to the stranger that dwelleth within thy gates. But thou shalt improve thine own, and thy desire shall be unto it. Lest thou be corrupt, and the hand of thy neighbors be against thee, and the cry of the poor ascend to God against thee.
Isn't it interesting that we're told your desire shall not be upon them, to take them by stealth, you're doing things undercover, or by fraud, you're lying, or by cunning, treachery, or by violence. They came and colonized us and shot us and enslaved us and so on and so forth. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share if you find this content helpful.